Welcome to Around the Board, a show where four board game enthusiasts discuss board game topics and news. Here are your hosts, Andy, I clearly like the sound of my own voice too much, Barnett, Dan, the board game man, Connors, John, my neck beard apparently offends some people, Theismann, and Chris, I'm so into pro wrestling it kind of creeps people out, Thomason. Welcome, let's go around the board.
What's going on, fellas?
How's it going, boys?
All right.
It's been a long week, I tell you what.
It has.
And a long day.
Long day's night.
Yeah, that too. Hey, Chris, I had a question for you, buddy.
All right. What's up?
Who'd you say your favorite game designer is?
Oh, that's the good Dr. Rainer Knizia.
Rainer Knizia. I was wondering if you have ever played this little gem,
Ooh.
Hollywood Blockbuster.
I feel like I've heard of that one, but I've not played it.
Not played it, eh? It's so weird. This game, I just want to talk about this game real quick because I mentioned it on our Facebook page. It's been released like 6 times under different names. And
Really?
the latest iteration, I thought I was kind of gypped when I got this in a trade because I thought I was trading for a different version of it. But it's impossible to list any version without just having the same picture. There was the one before, I can't remember what it was called, but it had all the real actors and directors in it. This one has like parodies of actors and directors in it. And then there's the new one is called Nightmare Productions, which is just generic horror movies is what you're making with that one. But to me, there's not much to this game. It's a few standees, a board, and some chits. And the new game is going for $60.
When you're a designer that has made 600 games,
700 actually.
whatever, eventually you're bound to have a dud here and there.
Oh no, it's not that the game's not good. I just don't see how they're charging $60 for a game that's already been produced and there's not much to it. There's
just called inflation.
There we go. Well,
yeah.
Okay.
60's the new 40.
But I got Old London Bridge from Gen Con for $20 less or whatever. So
Hashtag
a lot more to that
thanks,
game. But
inflation, people.
there you go.
Yeah,
Exactly.
but
But
I
hey,
thought-
that's not what people came here for.
It's not. What do they come
No.
here for?
I'm gonna make a stand
Something
here.
else.
Around the board is against inflation.
There you go.
There you go.
Hot take.
That is a
Hot
very
hard
controversial
line.
stance. Hey, Chris,
What's up?
I have a question for you.
Another question.
You came up with this cool part of our show, and I want to know how you came up with it. Let's do it.
Get
to it. It's time for this part of the show, which is right here.
Time to play the game. Time to play the game.
Well, I mean, in my opinion, it just writes itself. The pro wrestler Triple H, Hunter Hearst Helmsley, one of his monikers is the Game, and so that was the entrance piece that he'd come out to.
What did you
it's actually
say
a
his name was?
Triple H, Hunter Hearst Helmsley.
I thought that was like a cream for your butt.
Well, it is, but it's triple protection. But
I'm thinking of preparation H. I'm sorry.
yes, correct. But the great thing actually about the song, also why I like it, is actually it's written and performed by Motorhead. So that was also like an extra little bonus. So
No, it's funny that
again, all the things that Daniel doesn't have any idea about.
I don't know what word.
I don't either.
it's funny that Chris was the one that proposed this, and we were a little reluctant, and now we're all always into it when it plays, and Chris is just sitting there like a
I guess
cardboard
that's
cutout.
fair. I think the problem is I'm just like in my mind, like watching Triple H walk down the ramp each time, and I'm just like, this is awesome.
I got you.
Instead of actually entertaining
Well,
the music, so to speak.
We want to see maybe some more, I don't know, animation from you.
Yes.
All right.
As you came up
Right.
with it. I mean, it's your thing. So,
Fair. It's fair. It's a good
but
point.
speaking of it, you know what? Let's just play it again.
No, let's get to
I
the
can never
next
get too much
game.
of it.
Yes, let's
Start
start
this already.
That's the point. Is I had to have the music
I
to
got you.
start the game. So
I got
we're going to start the game. And for those of you that don't know and aren't aware of how Around the Board works, we have different segments, 4 of them. They're each hosted by one of us. Points will be awarded throughout the show, and whoever has the most points at the end will get to bloviate about whatever they like. First up in our first segment, I believe that goes to Mr. John Theismann, right?
Yes, that is correct. And wow, what a segment it is. Let me tell you. We're going to talk about a little bit of in this segment, we're going to talk about a little game called Ark Nova. You might have heard of it.
Little?
Might have heard of it a little bit, unless you've been living under a rock or
Oh, we had a
something.
commercial
You've probably
for it
heard of
last
this
time.
Yeah,
game.
is this the one with
Yeah.
God's judgment?
Yeah.
No,
Or
that's
the phase
Ark
2 of the
Nova.
flood.
That's Ark
Fertility and the death penalty.
Nova. That was yeah.
Correct. Also as well.
This has those same features, but a little different twist on it. But no, Ark Nova. For those of you who may not know much about it, it's a fairly long game. It's a lot in the vein of Terraforming Mars. People have called it the Terraforming Mars killer because now it's the Hotness. And I mean, you can't compare with that. But it's card driven like Terraforming Mars, but instead of literally Terraforming Mars, you are producing a zoo. And you get your own board with the landscape to place your zoo on. You have to place enclosures for your animals. You have to get animal cards. You have to pay to put the animals into the enclosures. And they all come with bonuses. And it's kind of cool. There's 2 different tracks that go around the board. One of them is ticket sales, because the better and bigger and cooler the animals are, the more tickets they're going to sell and the more income you're going to get. And then on the other side, the other goal of zoos is conservation. So there's a conservation track, which as you go up on the conservation track, it gets stronger and stronger. And the spaces become bigger and it's easier and quicker to move. So basically the game ends like Rajas the Ganges style when these 2 tracks pass each other. So that your idea is you want to pass those 2 tracks, your tickets and your conservation. So you want to have not a balance of the 2, but you want to have them meet at some point in the game. And whoever gets the furthest past, that triggers the end of the game. Everybody else gets a turn. And whoever gets the furthest past where there's meat wins the game, if that makes sense. I hope that makes sense. I hope I explained that well enough.
Where
Makes a
there's
lot of
meat.
sense.
It's very card driven. There's a long tableau of cards in a market that you can take from, and you get to take 4 cards out of 8 that you're dealt at the beginning, and boom, you're on your way. We've all played it recently, and we're all going to give our review of it somewhat. And Chris, I believe you are first.
Why, thank you. So
You already got a timer.
immediately got the line. Fantastic.
Thank you, Chris. Appreciate it.
So yeah, okay, like you said, correct. Everyone's kind of comparing it to Terraforming Mars, and there's a lot of good reasons for that. I gotta admit, I kind of get the same feeling. All those feels, it really is the same, but the defining difference for me is how you acquire the cards and the payoff of the cards. So yes, mechanics and all this stuff and the mental gymnastics we do in games are very important. That's part of the reason I play the games. But that fun factor is still a thing, right? And so part of fun is gratification. So with Terraforming Mars, you draft the cards and it's more, you can kind of build something a little easier because of it, which is then gratifying. Now, I'm also not saying I like games that are easy, because that's easy gratification. That's quite the opposite, as we know. But there is something to be said for that alone. Then with the cards in Terraforming Mars, when you play them and you get your little combo thing going off, it yields real results. While with Ark Nova, it's so hard to get the cards because you get the little tableau that John was talking about, and you're just kind of limited to what comes out. And if it comes out in a bad order, you're just kind of sunk. But with the drafting, the way it works, it's a little easier to make sure that you get what you're trying to work for, and you're never kind of stopped. And then even also with Ark Nova, it's cool, I worked on this combo type of thing for 30, 40 minutes in real life, and I did all the things, and I get 2 points. And it's the gratification is just not there. So I played it. It was fine. But again, I already got Terraform Mars, would just rather go back to it. Feels like more replayability. It's the one for me. What you got, Andy?
Well, Chris, I actually agree with a lot of what you had to say there. I will say there was one difference, though, that I disagree with. There is a out in the main area, there's 6 cards, I believe, you can draw from, and there's the pile. There are ways to go through that pile and draw random cards to get to cards. So it's not impossible to get through the deck. In fact, we got through a pretty good chunk of cards when I played my first and only game so far. I will say my biggest problem with it, honestly, is that, like you, I do think it has some similarities to Terraforming Mars. And here's one I don't like. I don't want to learn all the new iconography again. I mean, I've played so many games where you have to have this unique iconography. Terraforming Mars, Race for the Galaxy come to mind. And here's another one, Ark Nova, where it's my brain's hurting and I'm confused and I'm old and I'm losing my mind. And maybe that's just me. Maybe I'm just getting old. But it was fine. It was good. There were some problems with it, though. The biggest problem for me, honestly, is it was too long. I think it lasted longer than Terraforming Mars, at least at the 4 players I played it at, which Terraforming Mars at 5 players can really drag, and it's pretty just... it just doesn't play well. And so that's kind of how I felt about Ark Nova on my first play. Now, I will say that when we played, 2 of us had never played before. One person had only played one other time. So there was that. There's a bit of a learning curve there. Other things that I thought about the game. Here's a funny one. So Terraforming Mars, well known for having bad art, right? Well, it's because they mixed clip art or stock photos on their cards with original artwork that they did. And most people I talk to agree that the original artwork is actually not bad. It's the stock photos that are a little bit rough. Well, in Ark Nova, they chose to go the stock photo route for everything. So I'm glad they had consistency, but they chose the wrong one. The stock photos are kind of cheesy. So there you go. That's me. Okay. Daniel, you.
Yeah, so one of my favorite parts of Ark Nova is how you choose your action. I think it's a really cool idea that you have these 5 cards that are laid out over a time frame, and every time you do the action, you move it to the end. It feels like you're paying a cost to do this action, but the cost is just time in the game, and I think that's a really unique mechanic. Now, I know Civilization: A New Dawn, apparently Ark Nova got that mechanic from there, but it still feels really fresh and really exciting. I love this idea of fulfilling an action without technically paying the resources, and that's what it feels like you're doing. But anyways, I kind of jumped right into it, but I actually really enjoyed this game. I don't think it quite lived up to the hype that, let's all admit it. It was Tom Vasel who hyped it up so much. I don't feel like it was like the greatest game, but I do really like it's a very solid game. And in a year where I'm trying to play my entire collection, I've already played it 5 or 6 times, and it's a 3-hour game. So I do really enjoy it. I love the sense of accomplishment in the game. When you're done, even if you've played a poor game, you have a zoo that is filled with enclosures, filled with animals. You get to look over to the side and see all the entertaining things that you have inside your zoo. And I think it's a really fulfilling and satisfying end game in that regard. I do feel like the end game is also super challenging because of that crossing mechanic that was first by me noticed was in Rajas of the Ganges. That one put some really interesting tension at the end. And when you kind of gives you that, when do you want to finally strike, essentially, because you don't want to cross just a little bit, you want to be able to cross a lot. So I do also like that end game tension. So it's a good game. Really enjoy it. What about you, John?
Well, I think the perfect game of this type has yet to be made, because I think, while I prefer it to Terraforming Mars, first of all, let me say that. And a big reason is because of those action selection cards that you speak of. Because you get, I'm the only one who gets booed, because you get 5 action selection cards. So those are the 5 actions you can do on your turn. Well, you can do one of them. And what was really awesome about it was the first game I played, the action I really wanted to do was already taken by somebody, and it was to make an association with a country, and only one person could do it that whole round. So it's like, okay, I really want to do that, to do this, and this. But you also can look at your actions get more powerful the higher up they get. So really, by default, it's like, well, if I don't have anything better to do, if I'm biding some time, I can get a powerful action on whatever's on number 5. And that's my most powerful action right now. So it kind of gives you a focus. It's like, well, I can do that. Well, if I do that, then I can do A, B. And so it kind of helps you, keep you got kind of fluid targets you can try to hit. Because it's like, whatever I wanted to do, I'm going to have to wait till next round now because somebody took that option. So I like that. I like how it focuses you with those. And I like how you can upgrade those. And I like how you can only upgrade 4 of them at the most throughout the whole game. So you have to decide which ones you're going to upgrade. And when you're like, well, to do this, I have to upgrade that. But it's like, well, if I upgrade that means I'm never upgrading this. Do I really want to do that? So I really like those choices. And I think that makes it superior to Terraforming Mars. What hurts it, in my opinion, is the whole crossing path thing. To me, that is not satisfying for an end of a game. I just really don't think it is. I would rather there was something else that triggered end game, and then otherwise it's, well, I know I'm in 3rd place. It's like, is there really any, it's getting towards the end of the game. Is there really anything I can do? Because he's going to cross in 2 turns. I'm going to get close, and that you already know you're not going to win. So to me, that's where Terraforming Mars has the advantage, is the end game scoring and such like that you can be piling up some end game points nobody knows about. And I think I ended in perfect timing. That's all I've got to say.
Perfect. Yeah. You didn't go over at all.
So the gong, I think, means that game is over. Any final thoughts, gentlemen? Final thoughts there?
Well, my final thought is that John had the buzzer and the gong cross paths.
Yes, he did. They cross paths.
So he wins. Yes.
That means I win.
Exactly.
Excellent.
Now, I just wanted to know if this game was shorter. You said it was shorter than Terraforming Mars, or longer than Terraforming Mars. Was it shorter than your 6-hour game of Underwater Cities, though?
Wow.
Just
no
saying.
comment.
No
comment.
Sounds personal.
I want to say my last game of it was,
I feel like he's personally attacking me.
So I do want to say this about the art, because I felt like this has been brought up a couple of times, that the clip art. Normally I would prefer like hand-drawn art, like almost any day of the week, but the clip art for these animals, I feel like it really works. Like I never looked at it and thought it looked ugly, because like the clip art, it's animals. It's like these really pretty pictures of these, animals. I don't see
what else are you gonna
use. I don't
use.
feel like that's a valid art argument for this game, in my opinion.
So I guess I agree with the animals. The animals are fine, and which are a majority of the cards, but there are a lot of other cards that have like scientists and stuff, and it's just the stereotypical random guy in a lab coat, and it's just whatever.
Yeah. All right.
I will say that we played with 4 players last time, and 2 had never played it before. And with the teach, it was 3 hours on the dot. So it can be played a little quicker. That was Daniel Connors.
I'm getting pretty good at teaching that game. It's a pretty hefty one.
Yes.
But
I knew you would do better than me. That's why I was like, let Daniel teach it. I'm not good.
Well, I would say it's a strength to that game, too, because once it plays so logically, I think. And with those 5 action cards, all you have to do is explain those 5. It's a really easy teach, because you just go one at a time explaining those, and then how those like evolve or flip, and then you've explained the whole game. I think it naturally has a really good explanation built into it. So
I'd say it's overall, probably an easier teach than Terraforming Mars, don't you think?
I think it is. Yeah, I think so. And I know what I want to say. Andy, you said the iconography was too much. It's literally pictures of animals. That's too much for me. A red predator. It's like, I don't know what these mean.
Green monkey? We're not playing. This isn't Temple of the Lost Hidden Doom, whatever. Remember that Nickelodeon show? What
Legends
was it?
of the Hidden Temple.
That's it. Olmec, tell them what they've won. Anyway.
All right. Well, that was a great
move on to the next segment.
Let us know what you guys think of Ark Nova down in the comments. Is it a game that has lived up to the hype for you, or did it just fall short of its glory?
And does it need its own Ares expedition?
Ooh, that's a good one.
Chris, what do you got for us in this next game?
All right. So somehow I've been chosen to do this segment.
Hey, Chris, only Nixon could go to China.
So the question is, we're talking about the thing that we all run into, theoretically, of chasing the hotness that is game, right? Like, is it real, actual excitement that you have for the game? Are you being sucked into the community hive mind? Like, what's the reason we get so excited about this? Is this a whole nother thing just about humanity as a whole, that we're always more excited about the thing we don't have than the thing we do have? Let's find out. Andy, what you got?
Well, I think I like where you're going with that, because I think this is a bigger problem about the consumerism and capitalism in the United States. And I'm actually not going to go down that path. What I'm going to say, though, is that the hotness has burned me too many times. That's why I am trying to avoid chasing the hotness. I've been burned. I've been burned by the heat. For instance, I didn't go to Gen Con this year. I've been to Gen Con like 5 times now in the last 7 years. So I've gone quite a bit. I'm kind of glad I didn't go, because I didn't get tempted to buy what everyone is raving about before playing it. And you know what I really want to do is I want the discipline to go to a con like that, Gen Con or Origins or whatever, BGG Con. I want to go there and I want to play the demos of the games and then decide whether it's worth owning. Now, we live in a society where everybody wants it now, get it now. There's only so many. There's only 20 copies. Hurry, run. and I get sucked into that, and it's disgusting. It's disgusting. And again, I attribute my my temptation in this area to Daniel Connors. So I just wanted to slam him and give him a chance to respond. Go.
All right. Well, thanks for passing your inadequacies on to me again. I appreciate. I will gladly take that mantle. So yeah, the Chasing Hotness. I have an unfair reputation of the guy who gets all the new games.
It's totally valid.
I actually don't. Our friend Kelly, now she is the Hotness chaser, and I don't think any of you guys would disagree with that. Her entire collection is a bunch of unopened games that came out tomorrow, and it'll take 2 years for her to get those played as well. But I do feel like Chasing the Hotness is it's kind of valid in this hobby, and in most cases in life, I would say if something's super hyped, if something is talked about a lot, hold off a little bit. But the reason that the board games is a little bit different is because it's such a small hobby that you really do have a small window to get these games, or you might have to wait like a year or 2 years for a reprint, and that's if it even comes. I know there's the whole Vassal law. For those of you guys who don't know it, it's any great game will get reprinted, and now he's changing it to where even okay games are getting reprinted, and that's probably true. But you're gonna have to wait a long time, and yes, there is plenty of games to play in the meantime, and even if you miss the Hotness, you can always grab one of the old ones that came out that you missed. But I don't know, there's something about being in that community, talking about the game that just came out, and knowing and being involved in that conversation. It's really hard to get involved in a conversation with a game that came out 20 years ago unless you belong to like the Cosmic Encounter fan club or whatever. So beyond that, I think it's a really legitimate, only in this hobby that I'm aware of, that I would be okay with Chasing Hotness and being okay with playing it. And also, one last thing, I know the buzzer just went off. Games are really easy to resell, especially when they're hot. So you're really not gambling a lot, and actually you might inflate the price a little bit because you might got a game that you didn't like, but it's reselling for an extra $50. So I mean, you could be that guy and make some profit. I mean, just saying.
I got to call foul here. Because I don't like cheaters during games, okay? And you referenced Cosmic Encounter, which I just happen to know is the judge's favorite game.
Oh.
Give me a point for that, Randy.
Yeah.
Can we rewind it and see when that 6 point went up? I do agree with Andy. I think it happened the moment he heard Cosmic. He's like, up.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe, but that's not on me. That's all I gotta say. So, what about you, John? What do you have to say about Chasing the Hotness?
What's this topic again? Cosmic Encounter, is it the best game ever? Is that the topic? No,
I agree.
Sounds like it.
No. Actually, as I look around in my collection, as I think about what drives me as a board gamer and what kind of games I do get obsessed with having to get a certain game, but it's not always the hotness. Like Ark Nova is like one of the hotness right now. I'm not going to buy Ark Nova. It's not just because Daniel owns it. It's just not a game that I feel like I'm going to need in my collection. For me, it's something that's going to have to get a lot of plays, and it's going to have to be a theme that I really like. And so I think I'll play Ark Nova enough with other people owning it. It's not really a big deal to me. To be honest, there was a game that just came on Board Game Group I saw somebody talk about earlier called Walking in Burano, which I had never heard of before. And it came out in like 2018. And I'm looking at it, I'm like, this game looks really cool. I might have to get that. That's the kind of thing. That's what I obsess over. It'll be a thing like that where it's like, I've never heard of this game. What do you do with this game? I really need to get this. That's kind of what really drives me. A lot of times it is the hotness. I'm looking over 10 Penny Parks, Canvas with the expansion, all these things that I did get like early on or even ahead of the release. But if I play them, then that's fine. And that's what those are. I try to get the hotness that I know I'm going to like is the way I handle the hotness. I don't just chase anything that's hot, but the hotness that you know you're going to play, why not get it? That's what I say.
Well, I chase anything that's hot.
I didn't want to go there. That's the way Chris interpreted this segment originally.
That's right. Our show
We're all married men here, doggone it.
Slightly different than what we're saying on air, but all right. So I'm sorry, future sponsors. What I'm about to say is not good for you, and I understand it. it's good for the community and good for the industry for me to tell you, yes, get the new Hotness, get the newest game, that's all that stuff. But it's not true. You don't need to always be part of the hip crowd that Daniel's trying to be part of. You can sit in your basement with your other grognard brothers and play the same game 700 times in a row. If it's a good game, just keep playing it. That's all that matters. A perfect example, a few number of years ago, there's I guess a decent amount of viewers probably remember this. I think it was NBC. Their summer marketing scheme was, because back in the day, and I guess maybe today, but no one watches Tech Works TV as far as I know. Their thing was, obviously the regular season is during the school year, so to speak, and during summer they show reruns. And they're like, on Thursday is this show, and it's a rerun. But if you haven't seen it, it's new to you. And that's the case. It doesn't matter if if it's brand new actually, or it's 40 years old. If you've never played it, it's new to you, and it can be just as fun. For example, personally, I played a game called Kashgar. I think Kashdar. I can't pronounce it. It's very hard to explain to
Kashbar
verbalize. But it's from 2012. I played it for the first time a couple of weeks ago. That game was nuts. I loved it. It was fantastic. It had some kind of Dominion vibes. And I don't know. It's hard to explain. Look it up. Seriously, it's fantastic. But again, it encompasses my point. It doesn't matter if it's brand new, came out 2022, whatever it is, or if it came out 12 years ago. It 10 years ago technically, it just doesn't matter. If it's still new to you, it's still exciting. That excitement of the new can happen if it's brand new or otherwise. So again, I'm sorry, future sponsors, that I'm telling people to not buy your games, but I'm telling them not to play the ones they have. No need for the Hotness.
Yep.
Wow.
So you can
I like
sponsor
that
75% of us.
I like that your philosophy on gaming is based off of a defunct television model.
It's fair. It's fair.
So it's going to happen at some point, but we will come up with some old man Chris music that's old timey or something. It's like doo 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 doo.
I like it. Yeah,
it'll be something, and it will come up. Yeah.
So yeah, seriously though, if anybody is listening to this that's trying to take us serious or whatever, you don't have to rush out and buy everything. Be the person, slam on the brakes, that's fine. But it is also a lot of fun to buy the newest game. So I don't throw shame on anybody who's doing this stuff, like some people I know.
I don't want to contradict you, Daniel. I don't want to contradict you, but I do think that people do need to go out and buy this game that is now one of our sponsors.
Howdy, folks. I'm gonna tell you a story about how the world got turned upside down. It all started when a dadgum meteor done plumb hit the moon so hard it changed its doggone orbit. The axis of the planet got all off, and then while the oceans and lakes and rivers and everything else was all stirred up. Before you knowed it, the wildlife was a-changing. Fish in particular got bigger, smarter, and hungrier. They ain't all them city folk, but a few of us backwoods preppers are still fighting.
In Axis and Walleyes, you play as hillbillies fighting giant mutant fish on the front lines, while praying to God that the axis of the earth will self-correct. Because if it doesn't, we may all be swimming with the fishes. Axis and Walleyes, coming soon to Start Kicker.
And we're back. Let's hope that is a successful Kickstarter that we just saw there. But now we're going into comments from you, our viewers. If you'd ever like to be mentioned on Around the Board, just leave a comment down below. And if we piques our interest, then you may make it on the show. So we have this comment that was from a past show. I think it was our first show that we talked about is old versus new games, which is better, which seems to be a common thing with Chris. No matter what the topic is, it turns into old versus new, basically. When it gets
not untrue.
Or he ignores the topic altogether and talks about something else. But at least we didn't get into movies yet instead of the topic. But anyway.
This comment is from Cinepin13 on YouTube. Dear Around the Board, I'm not really sure any of you are qualified to weigh in on this old versus new discussion. Old games like Catan, that's where you go? Come on now, I wanted at least one of you to mention Risk, Access and Allies, Junta, Solar Quest, Buck Rogers in the 25th Century. I have played and owned all of these, by the way, so come play some true old games and redo this segment, you youngsters.
I kind of like being called a youngster, but other than that, what do you guys think? Should we maybe do another segment on old versus new and maybe go to like really, really old versus maybe not quite so old? I don't know. What do you guys think?
I think I'd like to talk about chess and Go. And
Those are some old games.
Yeah.
Now you're talking.
So
Yeah.
we like to talk about good games on this show. So I don't know if any of those things that you just read off qualify. So that already
Hoot is pretty good.
Axis versus Allies? I mean,
I heard Access and Walleyes is much better.
that's what I've heard.
Hey, let's get to segment number 3. What do you say?
Why don't we?
Why don't we?
I think that's you, Andy. What do you got for us?
Oh,
That
you
is. That's right. What? Wait, what?
Go. Ignore me.
Nope. Yep. Hold still.
Random task. Show them what you do.
Yeah, it's a new segment where I give a random task to everybody here at the Around the board. And the random task today is going to be to tell me what your favorite racing game is that's in your collection. It has to be in your collection. You have to own it. And what you think is the best racing game that you own and why. And we're going to award points based on that. Daniel, let's start with you.
All right. Am I telling you or am I telling our producer, Randy?
Well, you can tell it to both of us.
Okay.
Well,
I'll
Randy
tell it
gives
to
the
all of
points,
you.
so
How
I tell it
about
to
that?
Randy.
So my
Tell it
favorite...
to me, and Randy will give you the points.
All right. My favorite
Most of
racing
all, you should
game...
tell it to the viewers.
Can I talk now? You see the square? It's me. All right. my favorite racing game is Snowtails. This really exciting game is about dog sledding, and it has a really cool... Well, it's upside down. It has a really cool map setup. It's a variable track. Every time you play, it can be completely different. The game tells you about 10 different setups, which is pretty exciting. Also, you have to manage how well your dogs are pulling the sled, and if you tire them out or run them into cliffs or into trees, they will blow up. This is the only game I know that will let your dogs blow up. So, you do need to make sure that doesn't happen. But this is one of my favorite racing games. The mechanic of it is actually comparing two cards. Like the one dog has, like, let's say he has a 5, the other dog has a 4, and your brake has a 3. So you add 4 plus 5 minus 3, and that's how many spaces you go forward, which is
I'm already confused.
6. You would go 6 spaces forward. Anyways, it's a really fun racing game that has math as well. So anyways, there you go. Exploding Dogs, or what I like to call Snowtails.
By the way, Daniel, whenever I hear you mention that game, it is a fun game. Yeah. It always makes me think of this.
Yeah, we sing it all the time. Nice.
True.
That's what I do when I plow through the trees. Woohoo!
All right. Well, John, what game did you bring?
Well, I don't have a lot of racing games in my collection because it's not my favorite genre, but I think I've got one that nails the spirit of this competition today. And it's by a known designer, Martin Wallace. I know that impresses a lot of you. And it's about the space race, and it's Rocket Men. And this is quite the game. It's a deck builder where you're using your deck to plan a mission, basically. And there's different missions you can plan. So it's a race to get to the orbit, it's a race to get to the moon, and it's a race to get to Mars. And when you get there, you get these cool little coins that get you points at the end of the game. And so it's a kind of a push your luck game as well, because you're going through your deck trying to complete these missions, and if it looks like you're not going to make it, it's better to shut it down, or else if you keep going, it blows up everything and you have to start all over. So it's kind of realistic that way as far as a real space race. Plus, it comes with this really cool little rocket miniature to chart your progress along each mission. And look, it even comes off the little base. So nice.
It's really
cool.
Nice.
Yeah, it's pretty neat. So that alone is going to make it the best game in this competition. Look at this, I'm already done, and I've already talked about an amazing game. So there you go.
You're getting a little full of yourself there, John, but I will tell you this. Whenever I want to hear something unique, it comes from you, because you have some of the games I've never heard of sometimes. I'm like, what is that? But Martin Wallace, it's a fantastic designer.
You said a racing game, but I heard deck building and pressure luck. Nothing about racing in that at
You didn't
all,
hear Space Race and Race to the Moon? You didn't hear that?
Well, I heard the theme. I don't know if I heard the mechanic though. But
that's
fine. That's
true.
fine. We'll let the judge decide.
Well, it truly is a race to each one in this game.
Okay.
We'll let the great
When
and
only one
honorable
person
judge
gets that
decide.
coin when you get to each level.
I feel like since we can't end John's segment without this, we should do it now. He's the only one that gets that, so there you go.
You got a
I've
special
noticed that.
soundtrack. Good job, John.
Obligatory boo.
Chris, how about you?
All right, guys. So I have Formula Day. That's
What?
right. The old man Formula
What?
D. For
Wow.
those of you that are over the age of 10.
Is that really what Formula D is called?
Correct. It's the new like re-implemented Neo edition, whatever you call it. Yeah, Formula D originally was Formula Day. And yeah, I mean, if you've played Formula Day, or it's really the same game. It is a bit of pressure luck, but it's mitigated pressure luck of trying to make sure you increase your engine. The higher you go up, increase your kind of speed. You roll a higher die, you can move more spaces. But the counteract to that is you have to stop a certain amount of times in each turn. So you're kind of always like going up and going down and kind of managing it. And I really like it. Had it for a number of years, and now because of it, it's story time with Chris.
This late
Baby.
into the thing?
So this game, I had been wanting. This game, this was back in when I was in college. So right out of college, so it'd been like right out of 2008 to 2008, 2009 kind of thing. And I'd been wanting this game for a number of years though, and it had finally gone back into production and it got printed. I pre-ordered at my local friendly local game store. And it finally came in, went to go picked it up, was super excited, on cloud nine. I come home, open it up, look at the components, super excited. But I don't get to play it that night. And my roommate that was going to a gaming thing with his girlfriend and some other people after church the next day, and he was like, "Can I take it and play it?" I'm like, yeah, I mean, I'm an old man, right? So I'm very hesitant on like loaning stuff out to people because I assume those little children are going to break it with their grubby little big Cheeto fingers and stuff like that. So I didn't want to give it away, but I was like, you know what? I'm going to try to show grace and give it away or let him borrow it. So he takes it, comes back a few hours later, and he opens the door, and I can tell the look on his face is something's wrong. And he comes over. He's like, "Hey, man, I'm just gonna be straight with you. I don't know what happened. I opened the game and kind of started setting up, and then I had to go in the other room and take care of some stuff. And I came back, and a little while later, and the board was ripped in half. And I was just like, exactly. And I just kind of took it in stride. I was just like, all right, I mean, it is what it is. It's fine. But the funny part about this story is a couple of years later, he marries this girl, the girlfriend at the time, and they have been together ever since. Very good friend of mine named Ben Allen. Well, I found out about 3-4 years ago when we got together with them. We met them and had dinner with them and stuff like that. He lives up in Michigan, but he was in town for the time. And she finally fessed up that it was her. She's the one that ripped the board in two because she opened it wrong. And then she opened it wrong. It was just all at once because the board's like in like 8 panels and it's pretty heavy. So like I understand, like she just started the wrong spot and like tried to do it kind of quickly, and because of the weight and everything, it just like just gone immediately. So yeah.
All right, I'm gonna.
That's my
in post production. I'm gonna give you some good old story time with Chris music. It's gonna happen.
There you go. Chris, I had something similar to that happen to a brand new game of mine. I'd been looking for this game Penny Press for a long time when I'd seen a review of it, and finally found it like really cheap online. So got it in. I'm like, first time I got it, I'm like, oh, the board's a little bit, sticking up a little bit warped. I just need to bend it. Rip, the whole thing goes in. No, you gotta be kidding me. Luckily, I was able to fix it on the reverse side with some black duct tape, and you really can't tell now. But wow, I was freaking out when it happened. I'm like, because it can happen so quick. It's just like I'm barely, giving it a little bit of. Oh man, that's frustrating.
Andy, do you have a board ripping story?
Yeah.
Is that what this segment's about?
Yes.
Yeah, I think it was about board ripping, right?
Yeah.
I'm starting to fall asleep there. I apologize, gents. What are we
That's
doing
what
here,
all the skaters
podcast?
do. They do the
Oh,
board
that's right.
ripping.
Board, yeah. No, mine is going to be a racing game, which is what the topic is supposed to be.
That's right.
Racing
Racing
games.
games.
Yes.
I talked about it.
Well, at one point you did, yes. So I could have easily picked probably a fun runner-up, which is Downforce. I could have picked that. That's a fun racing game that the kids love, and it's a lot of fun. I've never had a bad time playing it. But my favorite racing game is a game you wouldn't think of as a racing game, but that's exactly what it is. It was mentioned earlier on the show, Raja of the Ganges, and it is a fun game. It's actually in my top 3 games that I own, which is saying quite a lot since I own about 250 games. It has to be described as a racing game, though. Every time I play it with somebody, I have to tell them it's a racing game, because otherwise they're going to just treat it as a normal worker placement engine builder and think, oh, we got plenty of time to get this engine going. No. It, just like we talked about in Ark Nova earlier, once the 2 paths cross, the game comes to an end, and the 2 paths are going to be fame, I believe, and money. And the interesting thing about Raja of the Ganges is on the money track, it goes up and down the money track, up and down, based on that didn't really work.
We're aware what up and down are.
I know what up and down is.
Okay, based on how much money you spend and whatnot. So it's just a great game. I would play this game almost any day of the week, anytime somebody asked me to play it. I just love it, and it is a racing game. So Raja of the Ganges.
So I guess with that definition, Terraforming Mars is also a racing game? Not Terraforming Mars,
definitely.
Ark Nova. Ark Nova is a racing game?
Yep.
Yeah.
That's what it sounds like to me. All right.
I gotta say, Andy,
honestly,
for someone that picked the game category to come at us with Rajas of the Ganges and then boo me for Rocket Man for the space race, I gotta tell you, that's pretty weak.
Guys, I need to update mine. My favorite racing game is Ark Nova.
Ark Nova. There we go.
So I gotta admit, though, I'm gonna defend Andy here, and that's because of personal experience. I played Raja of the Ganges with Andy and Ryan, and Andy was teaching the game, and he was just like, listen, guys, this is a racing game, because when these 2 things meet, the game's going to be over. And just like he said, yeah, you think it's a worker placement, you think it's engine building, but it's a race, because when you get to there, the game's over. And we're like, oh, yeah, we got it.
Yeah.
We got wrecked because Ryan and I were just like, oh, yeah, sure. Not that we didn't believe him, but we were like, we just assumed there'd be more time. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so, like, we're doing the engine thing or whatever, and we're just kind of having a good time talking to each other. And then all of a sudden we look down and he's like, all right, well, that's the game. We're like,
yeah.
Okay. That game ended 12-13 to 76 or something like that. It was real bad.
I gotta say, compared to Ark Nova, for some reason, it's always more obvious in Ark Nova that that's what you're doing. And Raja of the Ganges, I get so distracted in what I'm doing and what I'm trying to produce and what I'm trying to have. And then it's like, I could say, it's like, wait a minute, they're about to cross.
Right.
Pay no attention to that.
You have to make a lot of your decisions in Raja of the Ganges based on that. If you've got the leeway, because you don't feel like anybody's got their engine going really, you can be a little bit more calculated in how you build your engine.
Yeah.
However, if it's a race, if it's on, you got to just make the quick. You got to race.
Oh, I believe it.
All right.
I still wouldn't call it a racing game, but
guys,
I believe
I think we need to hear from our judge here. Who does our judge think the best racing game is? Can we get a drum roll, Andy?
Yes, we can.
Sorry.
Oh.
Must not be expecting to win.
Chris! Oh, what? This is. He got 2 points.
I called that one. Again, I call foul. People are picking games that Randy loves, and I knew that Formula
Maybe
D
games
was
that go in the category.
Well, that's it.
But Chris, one quick question.
Car on the front.
Yeah. But Chris, is regular, like Formula D, the sport, really Formula Day, or is that just that game is called Formula Day?
Well, I think it's Formula 1, actually, is the actual sport. But
okay.
Yeah.
So there is no Formula D.
Right.
That's
no, that's just what
okay.
Like the
I told
that's
you what kind of race
like
fan
the
I am.
cake, Formula D is
like-
a lie.
Isn't Formula D the
It's
stuff
a cough
that
medicine.
the babies drink?
It's a cough medicine. Formula 44D.
All right.
It's like it's
Well-
out of stock everywhere, isn't it?
Guys, let us know what your favorite racing game is. Because if this was a race, we would have lost because this was the longest segment we've ever
Yes.
recorded. So let's move on to our next one, which is going to be hosted by me. And our next segment is game art. How important is art in a game to you? As the years have went by, every single year the art just gets better and better and better. I think if you look at the most average game from 2016, it looks like garbage compared to the games that are coming out today if you just, measure the most average. So with this increase in this appeal, I want to know, how does this affect you guys and your enjoyment of this hobby and of these games? So does it add anything to it, or does it not matter at all? I kind of have a feeling I know what some of you are going to say, but let's go ahead and start with John.
Thank you, Daniel. And let me just say that anyone who thinks that art doesn't matter is fooling themselves. It may not matter to you, but it matters a heck of a lot to the success of a game. And I'll just bring out games like, okay, let's talk about Azul. Azul is a fine game, and a lot of people love Azul. If it was not this beautiful production and this amazing artwork involved in the game, nobody would have looked at it twice. This would not have been a game that took the world by storm for years and had all these sequels to it. There's no way. Then the next ones they make even prettier. You know what I'm saying? It's so, and then Sagrada, the same thing. If you don't have these beautiful dice, this beautiful artwork, it's not going to sell. Nobody's going to care if there's a good game in there. And the same goes down to every other game. Like I was saying, one of the new games that I got, 10 Penny Parks, that I was mentioning earlier, is one of the quote unquote new hotnesses I get. One of the big things about it is how true they were with the artwork and how immersive it is, and how, man, this really looks like you're building a theme park, everything about it. And if it was just, more, randomized looking abstract crud, then I can play chess. I don't really need that. So yeah, is art important? Art is very important. Production is very important. And if it's, for one thing, it's important to the enjoyment of the game, and it's very important for the sales of the game. It doesn't necessarily need an IP. I've said before, I'm a big fan of IP games, and that doesn't mean games were IP, Andy. But
Nope.
Regardless of an IP, it needs good artwork. It needs something to pull you in, because there's too much competition out there otherwise.
Yeah,
Chris, debate me on that, buddy.
Well, hold on. I think you're right, but I don't want to defend Azul. I know there's a lot of haters of Azul out there. I don't know. Maybe it's the whole the fact that it's new. I, to this day, really enjoy Azul, and I think even if it didn't have the chunky tiles, it still would be this great, tight game. So while your points are valid, John, I take offense with Azul.
I didn't say it wouldn't be a good game. Still, it would still be a good game. It wouldn't be successful. It wouldn't have been this game that took everything by storm, because people look at it and say, no, I ain't playing that.
I'll just agree with both of you and say
checkers.
it's not
I
a
have
good
checkers. Why would I play this?
So yeah, John, piggyback off yours, I will agree about Azul. It's a good game. It's a fine game. But yes, if instead of the nice clacky, nice tiles like in Hive, or if it wasn't that, if it was just cardboard shits that we have in all these other games, I don't disagree that the game wouldn't be the same. Yeah, that's a great point. But not enough for me to give you one of my points. So maybe someday I'll do that.
There you go.
But okay, so even though this seems like an obvious, I know what Chris is going to say situation, I am going to admit to the truth of, when I'm at a store and I'm looking through the games and it's a game that I'm not aware of or don't do too much about, yes, the art does make a difference if you're going to put your hand out and pull it off the rack. It is. There's no way around it. It's the truth. Okay. But does that really make that much of a difference that the game is good or not? No, in my opinion. The art can decide how good the game can be. And there's a lot of different ways, right? Like, you could be a person that, you can't just look at a terrible board, the very dry, washed out, like, oh man, what's a New York Zoo? I don't understand how that game does not get the hate that Ethnos and all these other old man games get, because I don't know if it's just because of the designer or what, but people are just like, oh, this game's great, but it looks like it's literally been out in the sun for 3 days, and or 3 years. I mean, it looks so washed out. It's terrible. But at the same time, again, art is very subjective, as we know. Like, for example, people trash the 18XX series, and I understand why. It's very dry, it's very garish, but the point of that art is to make sure you can see everything very well and you can make the calculations you need to on the fly. I'll go back to talking about what I did the last episode in Gutenberg. the game was fine. I enjoyed it. It was good. We all kind of collectively like it. My problem with it was hard for me to tell the difference between the victory points and the money. If they would add some color to the two different drawings, that would have helped a lot. But they didn't. They left it black and white, so to speak, and because of the iconography, it made it difficult. So, yes, I will 100% say art matters. But what that means is going to be different for every person, and also depends on what you're trying to accomplish with it. So, shocker of the world, I actually do care about art.
That is shocking.
What you got, Andy?
So for me, art is very subjective. What is art?
Oh gosh,
art is
a name.
Fresh suns or a sunset. Art is everywhere. Okay, and I think the real art in games is the design of the game, and therefore. I should have prepared for this segment.
Just this one.
Just this one. No, no. Honestly, in all seriousness, art. Yeah, I like things that are visually appealing. And there are cool games with different miniatures and different tactile things. I mean, I will say that one of the things that drew me to Azul was the components, and I do like games that have better components. However, just based on my experience with such crappy games with good components, I don't really weigh that anymore. It's kind of like an added bonus. It's like, oh, okay, cool. This is a fun game, and it's got cool components. Great. That's fine. But I don't just go in there and go look at the components, because I've been, again, burned, just like over the Hotness. I've been burned too many times by games that look like they have awesome miniatures and then play terrible. And so most of my favorite games have terrible art. I mean, we've talked about this before, but the Stefan Feld, the Uwe Rosenberg, some of those, the art is not really that great, but boy, the games are amazing.
All right. Well, I think art is very important in a game, and I think it could be. Let me say first, the mechanics of a game is the most important thing. Without the mechanics of the game, it does completely fall apart, because then it's just literally you bought a book cover and you open the book and there's nothing in there. That's disappointing, and that needs to be gauged when you go to get a game. But beyond that, art is the single most important thing about a game, because there is thousands of games that come out every year, and you have to be able to distinguish yourself from another game. And why should I buy this game over that game? At this point in 2022, there is absolutely no reason that your game should not have the most quality, top-notch art in it. There is no longer an excuse to have a game that looks like this, that was produced in the past 5 years. No one even knows what this game is. This is one of the best games out there. It's definitely on my top 10. But some of you will never even play this game, because it has this hideous looking troll that you can't tell. This is literally the first time I realized it was a troll, and it's because I'm looking at it this close.
And not a rock.
That's disturbing. Like, that's not going to get anybody to buy your game. But you get a game like this. I don't even know what this game is about. But this beautiful cover, I was like, okay, I've heard some things about it. I need to play this game. They said it's a good game. They said it's a heavy game. I like my heavy games. I think this is one that we're going to like. But I was like, this game, it won me over purely on that. Now we have Guild of Merchant Explorers. This art,
nice.
Again, back to nothing. If it wasn't for the rave reviews this game was getting, I never would have bought it. So is this a good game yet? I don't know, but you know what? It wouldn't be on my shelf.
That looks like nice art.
Yeah, it looks good.
I was gonna say that looks great. What are you talking about?
It's boring. It's boring.
Oh, okay.
You're boring.
Okay, this one is subjective, but anyways, I can go either way on that one. But the point is, there is no longer any excuse to have your games look like this, with just a dude on the cover. Dudes on the cover. It's retired. It's done. We need to have a revolution of amazing arts, and that includes getting rid of dudes on a cover. All right.
Viva la revolution.
Anyways.
The Zulkin cover is actually kind of cool.
Going against this revolution. I think dudes on the cover forever.
No.
Dudes on the cover forever, and dudettes.
Yes, people on the cover. That's what matters.
Duderinos. the Zulkin guy's kind of cool looking. What's wrong with you?
Exactly. That's why I was like, when you started saying it's not good art, I was like, you have to be kidding me. And then I was like, oh, he's on that.
I think the Zulkin guy should be on our show.
I don't know.
Maybe he will be.
I don't think he's going to make an appearance. He has his hands full.
I don't think he speaks English.
Oh.
That should give me a point right there.
That's pretty good. But can we revisit Ethnos for a second? Because although I do agree that Ethnos looks horrible, I really don't have a problem with the box or even really the card so much. It's the game board and the plastic, cheesy colored plastic pieces that you use.
Exactly. It's not even the game board. It's those little plastic chits that don't match like color wise to anything else. That's the problem.
No,
if the colors would have matched, it'd have been fine.
There's nothing.
The game board's terrible. I was going to say it's the game board for me.
It could have been 6 cards, and it would have been looked better than this.
Yes. And it'd been cheaper, so I'm in.
All right. Well, I tried to make a mad dash for 10 points, but I failed. So I was really trying to get the tiebreaker.
Who's the guy in the picture, by the way?
What? That guy? I don't know. I just found it on the internet.
Cool.
Yeah. Hope he doesn't sue us. I don't know. Randy said his name is Lars, so I don't know.
Lars. Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll hear more about him.
Yeah. All right. Well, guys, I think that's the end of our show. So let's take a look at the scores. Once again, Andy is in the rear at 8 points with John. I'm coming in at second with 9. Pew, 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 pew. And Chris wins at 10.
So far, the random task winner has been winning the overall thing every time. So that's 2 for 2.
I think
Random task. Show them what you do.
You win games. That's what you do.
Right.
All right. Well, Chris, take it away.
All right, guys. So I truly did not plan this. I know at the very beginning of the show, I pointed at myself when I was talking about the winner. I was just being optimistic. I didn't think I was going to win. So in case of those people are thinking it's all rigged, it's actually not. But because of that, to prove, if I was actually going to talk about what I'm talking about and know in advance, I would have the rule book for the game. But I do not. I'm talking to you about why you need to play Dungeon Crawl Classics. It is the best tabletop role-playing game out there. AD&D is good, and it's fine. And this is built on a 3.0 skeleton, but it has an old-school feel. Everyone's loving the 5.0 Dungeons and Dragons, and yes, I did enjoy it. That's actually what I came up on. I've only actually been playing for about 5 or 6 years now, but I have played a lot of D&D in that time frame, multiple campaigns, multiple times a week, and I've enjoyed the ride. But I've come to terms with the way that old school D&D and those clones like it were played is the best way to play for me. It's different for everyone else, but the style of play and everything else is so much better. And this game, the style of this game in particular is everything that you've ever thought of, at least for me. What I thought D&D was going to be, that's what this game is, where anything can happen. The roll of the dice changes everything all the time. And you may think, oh, that's not a lot of fun. Well, it keeps things interesting. It doesn't make it to where you're tired. I'm in campaigns where I've been bored out to tears for the last year. But you know what? I started it and I'm sticking it out. So anyways, I know I'm being... I got the hockey buzzer on that one. But regardless, if you're looking for a new role-playing game to give a try to, check this one out. Dungeon Crawl Classics, not a sponsor yet. I love them, though. Goodman games are fantastic. Seriously, check out this game. It's a blast.
Whatever John just held up, hold that up again, John. That was fantastic. So this isn't. I know we're past the game, but I deserve some points for this. This isn't a board game. Dungeons and Dragons isn't a board game.
Hey,
we are a tabletop hobby channel.
Well, no, we're not. We're around the board. What board is there?
Hey, it's his speech. He can talk whatever he wants to.
He can. That's true.
But I didn't want to. I didn't want to interrupt you, Chris, but I think the first time you mentioned D&D, you called it AD&D.
Yeah,
is that like a new version of attention deficit dungeon?
I got super excited. I was like, "What is AD&D? What is AD&D?"
So AD&D is short for Advanced Dungeons and Dragons.
Oh, okay.
So the original version of the game, and then there was First Edition, and then there was Advanced Dungeons and Dragons.
Is there an ADHD&D?
There is not.
That's the new edition that's coming out.
I take that back. It's by name alone, there probably is one out there because there's like for those that don't know, that are not part of the tabletop role playing community.
Gotcha.
There are thousands of games. D&D is the Kleenex or the Coke, so to speak, but there are thousands of different tabletop role-playing games. There's games out there where you play as like mice, like Red Guard or Mouse Guard kind of thing. There's There's ones where you play like as anything you could ever think of. There's a role-playing game for it. So with that said, there probably is an ADHD out there somewhere.
The only one that seems even
one advertised
minutely interesting to me is the one, I think it's got a vampire theme where you can like stab people in the back, right? You can turn on each
Vampire
other.
Masquerade, maybe? I don't know. I've never played that one.
I've heard that's the one to play.
Stabby back for that? Is that how there is in Daniel? I know you've played it.
Yeah. It's definitely all about political intrigue and stuff. Yeah, I played a LARP session of it all summer, and my whole goal was to try to expose the entire cabal, and they ended up catching me and skinning me and keeping me in their basement, and they were going to write spells off of my body for the next 100 years.
That sounds good.
In the game, not in real life. In case that was
they didn't take your skin.
Andy?
They did. No.
Andy, what's your confidence level that there will be an ad for ADHD&D on our show sometime?
Well, you never know.
Never know. Well, hey, guys, I think that's a good enough show for today, but let's leave off with some birthdays. We have 2 September birthdays. We want to give it out to hear it up for Above and Below 2015, 7 years ago this month. So Above and Below is from Red Raven Games. It started.
Speaking of great artwork, Ryan Lockett's artwork is fantastic.
Beautiful artwork. It's right here even. It's on my beautiful artwork shelf. This is what this shelf is. And then the other one is Alien Frontiers. It's kind of the grandfather of all Kickstarter games. So this is the game that Chris curses at night when he can't fall asleep and thinks about how Kickstarter has ruined our hobby.
What's actually happening is I'm crying myself to sleep that it was a Kickstarter game because I love that game.
Okay. Well, that one's 12 years as of this month. Well, guys, I think that's going to be it. And until next time, we'll see you around the board.
Hey, little puppy. Hi, puppy. Look at that. You want to talk about awesome notes? We got a guy, and he's fighting this like emerald green wizard looking dude. Come on.